Hello everyone. I'm trying this new microphone because I forgot that I owned it and my brother took it for a few years. Joke's on him, he gave me like those little microphones for Christmas, and then a couple days later he came back home and was like, oh, I found this in the back of my cupboard at home, and it was this microphone that I forgot I owned. Anyway, hi friends, we're back outside because I feel like doing these wrap-ups is really fun when it's outside. If you hear various noises, it's because we're outside and you can hear everything, right? Anyway, December was a really great reading month. It was a really fantastic reading month. I read some great books, so let's just get straight into it because I don't want to ramble. Let's talk about the books that I don't have with me as of right now because Hannah is borrowing them. So the first book that I want to talk about is Cursed Crowns by Catherine Weber and Catherine Doyle. Now, Cursed Crowns I gave 4 stars. It is the second book in the Twin Crowns series. I don't know if it's a trilogy. I really liked it. I really liked it. So Cursed Crowns follows immediately or like a few months after Twin Crowns. It's about 2 twin sisters. One of them knows that the other exists, the other one doesn't, and the one that doesn't is the princess of the kingdom. The one that does is in exile with the witches because of various things that happen within the context of this world. It touches on like religious colonialism, it touches on just colonization in general, and the idea of witches being evil. Cursed Crowns was really fun. Like, the reason why I loved Twin Crowns was because it was so fun and lighthearted. It is a young adult fantasy, and I don't particularly enjoy a lot of young adult fantasy anymore, but this one just hits the spot for me. I think it's just so easy to read. It's lighthearted. It is really lighthearted. Cursed Crowns I found was quite a step up, I think, from Twin Crowns. I talk more about this book in an upcoming video. I think literally next week I talk more about this book. You find yourself figuring out more about the world itself, because Twin Crowns wasn't the best in terms of world building, but Cursed Crowns you were beginning to see more, and it's really fun. Again, that word, I keep on talking about how fun and lighthearted it is. The 2 twins, they are not necessarily together for most of the book, which I feel like is what typically happens with these sorts of things because they're going on their own journeys. I would have liked it if there was more of them 2 together, because I really like the sisterly aspect of this series. But Ren, one of the sisters, goes to kind of like an enemy kingdom in order to save their grandmother, but what happens with Ren is she gets so surprised by the consequences of her own actions that it got really frustrating, but towards the end she has like a realization, and that's part of her character development. Rose is my favorite character in this series. I just love the way that her character develops. I think it's very organic, very natural, and she's trying so hard. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and I really enjoy the world. We find out more about different kingdoms. It's just really fun, and I will continue reading it. And then the next book that I don't have, that Hannah is also borrowing, is Love Theoretically by Allie Hazelwood. In that same vlog where I talk about Cursed Crowns, I talk about Love Theoretically. Let's just say I gave it 5 stars. I think it's the best Allie Hazelwood adult romance yet. It was just so adorable. It was really adorable. It had fantastic sexual tension. The romance between the 2 characters was great. The main character was, annoying. But like, annoying in a way that made sense. Like, I feel like we will all be like that, It was just really cute. And I have an audience right now staring at me, and it's really awkward to talk. But yes, so I loved this one, and it included more of a commentary on women in STEM, and specifically women in academia. As a woman trying to get into academia, it really hit a bit too hard, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I just think Allie Hazelwood writes some of the best sexual tension, some of the best romances that are out there right now. she just gets what I want, right? And it was really cute. The male love interest, Jack, was literally perfect. He was perfect, and I love him so much. He might be my favourite love interest that Allie Hazelwood has written. He was just absolutely precious. But yeah, that... I love Allie Hazelwood. Like, what else do you want me to say? Okay, I can't help it. Anyway, let's then go to this big-ass book here. I am making my way very slowly through His Dark Materials by Phillip Pullman. I finished Northern Lights and The Subtle Knife in December. Wow. Northern Lights was unlike anything that I've read. Like, it felt so unique, and I understand why so many people love it. It didn't quite hit there, like, to 5-star material for me. I gave it 4.5 stars, but I love Lyra. I love just everything about this world. It is so fascinating. You have alternate universes. You have the church and the magisterium essentially controlling everything. It's like the interweaving of magic, science, and theology in Lyra's world. And in Lyra's world, there's these entities called demons, and demons are just your soul, like they're part of you. They are representative of who you are, and they're so cool. They're so cool, and I love Pan, who is Lyra's demon. I really like their relationship. I just think the Northern Lights was really fun, and I didn't anticipate any other twists and turns. I should have. I am in my big age of nearly 30, and I should have seen the twists and turns, but it was unpredictable for me, and I had so much fun. I think Northern Lights was a really great first book in a series, and it's definitely, paving the way for the rest of the trilogy. And then I read The Subtle Knife. I gave The Subtle Knife 5 stars because that shit was absolutely incredible. I binge read The Subtle Knife in a couple hours. I just couldn't stop reading, and I didn't want to stop reading. It was magnificent. You find out so much more about this thing called dust and why in Lyra's world, the church is so, terrified of it and wants to eradicate it. And then you find a new character named Will, who's in a different alternate universe, and just everything comes together so wonderfully. And I think being halfway through the Amber Spyglass right now, which could change, I think The Subtle Knife is going to be my favorite book in this trilogy, because I just think it was so fantastically written. How is this middle grade? It is pretty dark. There are aspects of this that are pretty dark. A lot of death is happening, but absolutely, it's really bloody well done. Let's just go down the list, shall we? So, I have an entire reading vlog dedicated to this book coming out soon, so I'm not going to talk much about it. The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice is book 2 in the Interview with the Vampire series, the Vampire Chronicles. I don't know what it's called. I gave this 3.5 stars. This took me so long to read. It was such a struggle. There are aspects to this that I really enjoyed, and that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. But overwhelmingly, it wasn't a fun reading experience. I was just bored. I don't think it needs to be this long. But what kept me going is Lestat's character. I find him really interesting. I thought he was the most interesting character in Interview with a Vampire. And although in Interview with a Vampire, he's really kind of pushed as the villain to Lewis's story, Lestat in here, you would categorize him more as an anti-hero. I feel like you find out a lot about his own motivations and who he was as a human, who then turned into a vampire, which he didn't want. He was attacked, and so again, it was quite interesting. You find some characters along the way, like Marius, that I thought were fascinating, and I wanted more of them. But I don't quite get yet Lestat's ambition to like why he's doing what he's doing. So I will end up reading The Queen of the Damned, but I don't know if I'm gonna necessarily continue reading the rest of this series because it's a long series. I just don't think the interest is there as of right now, if that makes sense. But I gave it 3.5 stars. I'm happy that I read it. It's literally been on my bookshelf since I was in high school because my mum got me this for my birthday years ago because I was in the twilight phase. Mona Awad never steers me wrong, and she didn't. Again, in a few weeks, I will have a Mona Awad reading vlog where I talk more about this book and another one. All's well, but Mona Awad I gave 5 stars. This was brilliant, fantastic, so ridiculously weird. I consider it a dark, gothic fairy tale. You don't know if what is happening is actually happening and if it's meant to lean into that speculative magicalness or if it's all in the main character Miranda's head. Its main theme is the invisibility or like the ignorance of women's pain and how people don't believe women when they claim that they're in pain, and that essentially pushes the narrative. It's very powerful. Trigger warnings for a lot. If you get uncomfortable by reading very detailed writing pertaining to like chronic pain, stay away from this because I cringed in pain myself. Like you feel it, it's very visceral, and I think it's a very deliberate thing that Mona Awad does so that we can't ignore the pain, you know what I mean? I just really love this. I really loved it, and there's really nothing else to say other than that. Mona Awad is brilliant and I love her. She is quickly becoming one of my favourite authors of all time. I just think that what she is doing is not being done by very many people, and I love that for me. So that's All's Well with Mona Awad. 5 frickin' stars. Another 5-star book. Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. I have an entire reading vlog about this book, so I won't talk much about it. This is book 2 in the Thomas Cromwell trilogy. I didn't think that anything could reach the same level as Wolf Hall. Like, I honestly thought that the rest of this trilogy was going to be fine, but no. Although I still consider Wolf Hall to be my favourite because I love like reading the journey that Thomas Cromwell goes from being Thomas Cromwell to being Thomas Cromwell. This was amazing. It's much more political. You see the inner workings of Thomas Cromwell's mind, and it's just fantastic. I don't know what else to say that hasn't been said about this book before, because if you haven't read it yet and you like those intense character studies, please do it. I didn't think I'd be into historical fiction that only focuses on people, like on characters. I thought I was someone who could only read romance historical fiction, but I've actually figured out that it's the opposite. I prefer my historical fiction to be character based and to be that type of very like slow moving, intense character study, and I prefer it. I just loved this. This was great. I am so terrified for the last book because the way this ends, obviously it ends with Anne Boleyn's like execution. I'm just terrified for what comes next because Hilary Mantel writes foreshadowing really well, and I think well, obviously it's easy because, you know, we all know what happens to Thomas Cromwell, but she foreshadows it foreshadows his eventual demise very well. She's doing it in a way that feels very natural. Like Thomas Cromwell himself is like, I know that one day the piano's going to drop on my head. Like, he's very much aware of it, and I think that's really wonderfully written. And in the last book that I read in December, this is a very quick fire December reading wrap up. I read Heartstopper Volume 5. So this entire series will always be a 5-star read for me. I do not care. This entire graphic novel series means the world to me. In this one, we see them growing up. We see Nick and Charlie just growing up. Nick is trying to figure out where he wants to go into university, and he's in tension because he loves Charlie so much, so he wants to stay close to him, but he also needs to do what he thinks is right for himself. And I just think it's so beautiful. Alice Oseman is just an incredible writer, and I love them so much. It was just really wonderful. It feels like a very natural depiction, a very organic depiction of teenagers in love, but also growing up and trying to figure out their place in the world. And I love it. So 5 stars. And that is it. That was a really quick December reading wrap up. In conclusion, I read 8 books in December. I had an average rating of 4.63 stars, so it was a really fantastic reading month. I'm really happy that I ended 2023 with such great books. I mostly read fantasy, young adult, and middle grade because of, I think, Phillip Pullman and Curse Crowns. And I had 5 5-star books. So isn't that great? And that is it for my December reading wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe, like, comment, please. I love it. I also want to thank you all for the recent support and love for my channel, for my content. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I forget that people are actually like watching me. Anyway, take care and stay safe, friends. You are beautiful and I love you. Happy reading. Bye.